This week, I want to share another LEGO podcast you can add to your playlist, and that's the Stud Buds. So join Breaking Up Brad, Matt Mellish, Block Studios, and Ethan the Artisan every week as they banter about the break. This was not a paid advertisement for the Cali Brick Click, just another way to broaden your LEGO podcast playlist.
Very briefly, I saw you, but I was always off doing something else not free. So I'm gonna say in 5, 4, 3. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cali Brick Click, episode 89. And before you get into the introductions, you can find this episode on previous episodes and anywhere you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, wherever. And like always, we got Claire the Plastic Architect.
Guys, hello.
Good morning. Ninja.
Man, 94 is creeping up.
Dude, that's like right there. And today we have Matt Mellish. How's it going, dude?
Doing great. How are you?
I am hopped up on coffee. Like, seriously. I've actually been up since like 4 a.m. our time just because I have so much to do during the day that I just have to get cracking into like my actual work. But I am like on one right now because this is coffee number 2. So forgive me if I'm a little like extra.
He got the good stuff.
But how's everyone else doing?
Man, we're burning up over here.
It's humid right now. It's supposed to rain like for us, right?
That'd be good.
I think it is supposed to rain on Saturday.
Yeah, I heard something about a storm coming, but I'm all for it. There's like 2 fires in the mountains right now.
I think. Oh yeah, there's one by us. I think hopefully it gets put out soon. It's not that bad though. They're just letting it burn for the most part. There's like really nothing there.
I feel like we jinxed it because last time I was like, "Oh yeah, there's no fires. It's crazy." And now
it's humid. Now it's humid where I am, and like. So my son Ezra, like his first soccer game is on Saturday. No practice. In fact, it's all a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds, and the coach was like, "Who's an experienced soccer person?" He's like, "Good news, bad news. Bad news. I've never coached soccer before. Good news. I've been playing soccer all my life. Like he's in a club and all that." And he's like, "Honestly, these kids, they're just gonna want to kick the ball out. There's nothing I can teach them that they're gonna retain. So let's just let them have fun." And I'm like, I'm totally down with that. And like. We asked all of our children in our first meeting, they're like, who here wants to play soccer? And none of them said yes. They are like, we don't want to play soccer. So I'm like, oh, okay. So we're all in the same boat. And it's supposed to rain on Saturday on their first game. And I'm like, this is going to be fun.
They're like, we're over this. We weren't even for this, and we're over this.
I
used to play as well. It was not a good time in the rain. Go ahead.
Yeah, I loved playing in the rain. And I was about to say the opposite. But I think when you first start playing, it's not necessarily like learning concepts or skills. It's mostly about learning how to like play with a team, especially with kids who are like have been isolated for the last like 3 years. I think it's probably more about that. And then like the social aspect and like competition, like waking up in the morning and like going to a game on the weekend and kind of that routine. I would look at it like that, and it's been naive of the coach to like not say that, but that's really what it's about. You know what I mean? Because like 99.9% of these kids that play soccer on a global level don't play professionally, let alone in college. And so the only thing you're getting out of it is like work ethic and team and like just working with other people. And I think it's like pretty. That's like probably the most important part, right? So I would like
I agree.
Keep putting. That's why you put kids in team sports, right? And so, it's a lot of fun. And then I think a lot of parents get like way too into it and like.
Oh, I found that dad. We found that dad. And we're like, oh, that's the dad that's gonna be like, my kid's better than yours. Blah blah blah. We're like, dude, chill, dude. They're 4 or 5 years old.
My dad is like a very athletic person and was like an incredibly good soccer player as well. But he was good. He like wasn't. He would like kind of run with me on the sideline if my coach was like really bad. Like this is like later. This is like later when I was like good.
High school time?
Yeah, like high school and like in club and stuff like that. And then like he would never like scream. My mom though, because she had no concept of sports, would just like scream randomly because she would get so hyper excited and just be like, ah! Like she was that person on the sideline. It was embarrassing. I can tell you that. 14-year-old. Yeah. Now it's endearing, and I like will probably turn into the same thing, but
it's gonna follow your mom's footsteps on that. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I'm excited. I will say Ezra's 3rd week of school, like actual school, not like TK, has done so much for him. Like the like, Daddy, I need to be at school now. I don't want to be in the end of the line. I'm like, you're waking
Trying to be
yourself
the
up.
leader.
Okay, let's go. Let's get ready. Let's move. And he's like, hurry up, Daddy. I don't want to like. And he's like, at this point, like he literally like stops me like halfway walking up to the school. He's like, I got it, Dad. And I'm like,
Dang.
wow. And that was a big shock for my wife,
Wow.
who recently just dropped him off for the first time in a while. And she's just like, dude, he no longer wants to like be with us. I'm like, look, when he's at school, he's on his own thing. So let's just push this independence. And like
to be totally honest, he probably gets more attention at school than he does at home. You guys are both working.
Yeah.
You guys are both focused on something else. And he literally has either a dedicated person to him or other kids around him that are going to like flock to him because he's social. So,
oh yeah,
you know,
definitely.
yeah.
I see that. Yeah. And that and Venus did bring that up as well. Like yesterday, she was like, yeah, he's probably loving it because he is a social butterfly. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But then it finally hit me and I'm like, oh, well, there that goes. It's got one more and then that's it.
He's a grown man.
He's a grown man. Yeah. But yeah, so Matt, how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing great. Busy week already. Starting to work on YouTube video and all that sort of stuff. Getting back into making more long form content because I'm so used to the TikTok side of things and the easiness of how it is to make a very condensed version of what a long form video for YouTube would be. So excited to see where that goes, but overall doing well. The weather's nice out today, so I'm thinking about going for a run tonight. I used to run cross country in high school and I've kept that up throughout my life, so trying to not only stay fit, but it's also for the mental side of things, just to clear my head and get out in the fresh air, because I'm always stuck within these four walls since I used to work at home, but now I am trying to go full time into social media, so we're going to see how that goes. But yeah, doing well.
Did you officially like quit your more standard job? Or are you still in the transition process?
So the weird thing was that since the job was COVID related, I worked for my college as a COVID response team member. So I would answer the phones, I would quarantine people. It was not a fun job in that regard, but I had since been like let go in the sense of my position was no longer needed. And so they were wanting to get rid of me for a while, not because I was a bad worker or anything like that. They actually wanted me to stay on in another capacity. And I said, honestly, I would rather dedicate my time to something a little more worthwhile in my mindset, because for me, social media was hard to get a footing with to go full time because of needing all of the time in the world to make it happen. So I would rather take that leap of faith now that I don't have all of the responsibilities in the world. I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. I'm not going to soccer practice every other day or whatever. So like I can focus on my craft and hone it in and get to the point where I want to be before all of those things come. And if it fails, I can always go back into digital marketing, social media side of things. I majored in graphic design in college, so it's what I know, it's where I'm from, and I'm just excited to see what ends up happening and the journey that it takes me on. So to answer your question, being that my position was no longer needed, I just thought it was a great time to kind of fade into doing what I am now.
Nice.
Yeah, use the time that you have, and if you don't have too many expenses and stuff like that, how much time are you giving yourself?
In terms of like social media content and the work that it is?
Yeah, it's obviously an easy transition for you to be like, okay, well, I already have this digital marketing background. If I like don't succeed on my own, on my YouTube and like whatever it is, like my own platforms, then I'm gonna go work for like, a corporation or something like that. Are you giving yourself like a time? I'm not saying you have to. It's just I know some people do that. Like, I'm gonna give myself a year where I've budgeted this. Like I'm just curious.
Right. So I have this lease where I'm living for a year because I moved like 6 times in the last year because my college kept moving me around. I was their residential quarantining assistant, so I would literally be like boots on the ground, making sure people had food and water, and if they needed anything, I was there for them from a more physical perspective. But that was over at our branch campus. and then they shut that down. So they moved me back to their regular campus. Then they moved my back to the branch campus because JK, it really didn't shut down. We still have another few months of this. Also, you have this until Christmas. Then Christmas came by, or no, Thanksgiving came, and they threw me out of there. So I had literally a week to move and get out of where I was living on my college property as that job. And I was still working for them on their hotline, so I still had the income. But I literally moved in a week to an apartment up the road that I just randomly found. Then that guy didn't think that I was going to stay more than 6 months. And when I said at the 6-month point, hey, just to let you know, I would like to stay here for a year, he said, oh, sorry, I've already found someone else. My friend would like to move in. So I had to move. And again, I had 2 weeks to find this place where I'm currently living. So this is the longest that I'm staying in one place. But with that being said, I am hoping to like make it happen before I move out of this humble abode. So my rent is on the cheaper side because I'm not really caring about needing the finest things in life. I'm more than welcome to live below my means and happy to do that. So probably about a year. I never really like set it a hard date for it, but I would say like within that time, I'll probably know if it's something that I can do and want to do on that level.
So there is a time frame.
I mean, it could go past that if I feel like we're getting to where I need to go, but it's not like a hard date of May 5th, 2024 or whatever. Like,
you have some cushion there, but that's good. Like you have the mindset ready just to hit the ground running, and you know that you're capable of doing it space financially, take care of yourself. And it's admirable too that you're on your own doing this too. You're not like, with your family, which is not a problem too, but you're supporting yourself at the same time. So
another thing is that you realize if you're almost there, you're not just gonna quit. You're gonna keep going. Because I've seen a lot of people like almost get there and they're like, it's not where I want to be, so they just stop.
Yep. And I've felt like I've grown the platform that I needed to. Like I have that audience. It's just about where do I push them in order to make the financial thing work with it.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just go straight into that then. So your strongest platform is where?
So I would definitely say TikTok is where this all kind of started, but I'm since trying to branch out into YouTube. I've gained very quickly now 18,500 followers on Instagram. So that was just like this past week because I was stuck at like 12.5 for a while, and then one video just started doing great. So trying to diversify my content and see where that takes me. But I'm definitely used to the short form content by now. So it's a lot harder to make that full length YouTube video for 10 minutes.
So when did you start on TikTok? Let's dive into the beginnings of this.
You want the origin story? Okay. So I went to, like I said, I went to college for graphic design and marketing, and Lego was always something that was a part of my life. And I never really expected it to like come back in the way that it did, because during my college time, it was one of my dark ages, I would say, because I didn't have the money to be able to spend on the hobby or the time to dedicate towards it. So I, halfway through college, junior year, was working 4 jobs, taking 18 credits of schoolwork. I was paying my way in college, and I wasn't happy, and I didn't want to be there anymore, in the sense that the people that I worked for weren't good people, in the sense that they didn't know how to be a boss, or my coworkers, they didn't know how to be good coworkers, and everybody was very selfish. It felt that way, at least. And I wanted something different. So I asked myself, why am I here? Why am I in school right now? What's my goal through all this? And I wanted to always work for Disney. That was something that my entire life I had kind of strived to reach a point of. So I had a few friends who did the Disney college program, and I decided myself, you know what, I'm just going to apply. I'm not necessarily going to accept it. Let's see what happens here. I immediately, over 3 months, got accepted, went through the whole process, didn't tell a soul except for like 2 people, didn't tell my parents. And then one day I'm just like, yeah, I'm going down to work in Florida as a PhotoPass photographer. And everybody was like, wait, you can't just do that. I'm like, yes, I can. I already talked to academic advisement and they're completely cool with it. I'll keep all my scholarships. Okay. So I went and worked for Disney for 7 months, and I thought that was where I was going to eventually work after school because I still had one more year of college to finish up. And I went back to college very happy, knowing exactly where I was going to be at the end of things. And COVID hit. So that took a lot of wind out of my sails in terms of what the plans were. And when it comes to my life, I always expect the plan to go sideways because that's normally what happens. So, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But at the same time, you have to understand that things aren't always going to work out the way that you plan, and you have to be able to pivot. So I always loved social media. I was watching a lot of Gary Vee at the time, honestly. And TikTok was the thing that I knew was going to get bigger than it was at that point, because this was back early 2020. And I started posting art videos related to graphic design and fine art that I was doing at the time. I was in the middle of an art thesis. And then I posted one video about Lego on Easter, which got 40,000 views, which is more than I had ever gotten before. And I saw potential with that niche because I didn't really see very many other people at the time that were doing it. One was Epic Bricks, who is a Bricklink seller, but that was basically it. And I started posting just random trending sound related videos. I didn't really get into my own authentic original content at that point because I was just learning the platform and seeing what worked. And I saw a lot of trending sounds that were taking off. So I kept doing that and started growing my audience. And ever since then, I just kept up with it through working with my college, who brought me on, I guess that was February of 2021. So a little over a year ago. And we've since grown to 728,000 on TikTok. And bringing in YouTube, trying to find a footing there in a sense, knowing what works for that platform has been not difficult, but challenging. And Instagram is very easy because I just repurpose TikTok, and I want to find a way to make it more, I guess, original or exclusive for that platform, but I'm still developing how I want to approach it. I try to keep my captions longer on Instagram, almost like a blog, so that if people wanted to read more or learn more about the short form video, they can, since I'm not necessarily going to be able to dedicate a long form video to everything that I'm doing, since I've posted consistently like every day for the last 2 years. So
I think the stopgap or whatever it is, like the time that people are willing to spend on content on Instagram is like infinitesimally longer than it is on TikTok. And some of like the top, like Forbes just released like their top creators of 2022, and I follow like a lot of them. And this is, I'm sure like it's important to look at not Lego content. It's important to look at bigger content. And something that I found myself enjoying consuming and is like stories. I know like reels are still where it's at, but like stories that have significant text on them. Like that's what I find myself like stopping and reading a ton more because of it. And I'm not saying
stories.
What?
Are you pausing stories?
For certain accounts. Yeah, like certain accounts. to be honest, like none of these are Lego accounts. Like these are accounts that are like about health and fitness and wellness and lifestyle and stuff like that. So there's like a little bit more meat to actually be talking about it. And you can obviously create that with Lego in its own way. But it's just a little bit fascinating. I'm not saying that I think this is like the direction that it's going. I don't know that. Stories is something to like develop a community. It's not necessarily to grow a community.
Right.
But what's really interesting about it is that I found myself being like, of course, like one of those numbers, those people that are like actually doing like, because I've never like gotten into TikTok. Like I don't actually particularly enjoy watching reels or that short format content. Like I know it's not my demographic, but I thought that was interesting that like one of the things that these top creators are doing is something that I enjoy. I was like, oh, interesting. I'm still in this like mass demographic of people with like marketing power and purchasing power, which makes sense.
Right.
But anyway.
I mean, so many people get lost in the TikTok scroll, like hours on end. Like, oh, it'll be really easy for me to sit down. I have 10 minutes just to kind of scroll on TikTok and see what's going on in the world. 2 hours later, you're super behind. You forgot to mow the lawn and pick your kids up from like. It's
like
just one of those things.
I also found that like any moment that I've spent doing that, like I have gotten lost in it a few times. I don't buy anything. Like, and so it's not like a marketing tool, right? And so
Correct.
a lot of the times I will, you know, see like one of these like longer format stories or something like that, and it's like a recommendation on a book or product or supplement, or like it's if it's from like a doctor that I really like or respect or something like that, then you know, then I'll actually go and tap, and of course like my shop pay comes up or whatever, like, and so like it within seconds I've already purchased and sent something to my house because all that information is already saved there, which is I think is really where the power of marketing is. A lot of it too is like that capacity to do that. And like I'm curious, like, does TikTok do that for some people? Like, have you ever bought anything because of like a TikTok or a reel? Like,
Product placement, that type of stuff.
Yeah. I'm not trying to
I
like
haven't
break
just
down, but I'm just curious, like if people
no. So
Yeah.
the way I
People
view
have.
TikTok, and this might help put things into perspective a bit better for you. The way that I look at TikTok is a place to grow your audience, not it's not the business, right? It's not the money game. Now, I get most of my funds that I have received from actually TikTok live streams. A lot of people are just very generous to me there. I don't get a lot through their creator fund because it's a small pool of money that's allocated for all creators, not like YouTube where it's run on AdSense, right? So that's why I'm trying to grow YouTube, Instagram, because TikTok, you can grow an audience, although the problem is there that you don't always have loyal followers, like you were kind of noting, because Instagram, there's more authority for the brands, for other influencers, I hate that word, but other creators to be able to purchase things from them and all of that. I think that for me, I'm just trying to grow that audience, and then with those numbers kind of dictate where I can take them next.
So how do you like, I'm curious, like, do you feel like the content that you've done, that totally makes sense, by the way, is the content that you've done on TikTok and like reels or whatever, this like shorter form content, does it reflect your longer form content? Does it reflect you as a brand? And like how do you make that transition? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like like Shy, for example, like a really easy example is that Shy has this reel that did really well and he got a lot of followers, and it's just like an idiotic like Stranger Things reel, right? And so because like Stranger Things was like, I mean, most reels are idiotic, but whatever. Like, so that's the whole point. That's why we love them. But like the Stranger Things was, it was, you know, popping off, the music was trending, blah, blah, blah. And so now he's got all these people that don't give two crap about Lego that are following
right now.
And so it's great because like he got a huge boost on his Instagram, but it's not like those people are going to come over to his YouTube where he's going to get more financial gain. So I'm curious, like, how does one do that? And I've seen like so many creators, like there's certain things that like make sense to me, right? Like there's like idiotic, like lifestyle creators that do, I'm going to just overuse idiotic tonight. I can start today. I can feel it. There's like these creators that like just do the trend, they take the trending music. And if they like are somebody that talks a lot about like dating or something like that, that's who they are. They're like a 30-something-year-old that talks about their dating life and gives advice, right?
Because they have the authority to do so.
Well, yeah, people like it because it's like real and they talk about like their own experience. So people like tend to like gravitate towards that, right? So, so this person is like talking about, you know, they apply whatever dating scenario to that song, and then you go to their content, and that their content is continuous about that. Their stories are still about that. They like are getting ready for their dates, the clothes that they're wearing, the food that they intake, the workouts that they do to feel better about themselves. It all kind of like wraps together. And even though, and people like love that. And like, I'm curious to see like how that comes together in YouTube and with the Lego space as well, because I think there's like a disconnect as well. Like, I haven't seen anyone like do it completely. Like, I think Tiago does a pretty good job because like he takes like unless you do like the straightforward thing, which is like taking snippets of your actual YouTube content and then making a successful reel with that, then that's like translatable. But then I feel like, I don't know, it's really challenging. Like, I'm acknowledging like what you're trying to like, you know, work out with YouTube, because it is really difficult. And I think a lot of people struggle with it. And then a lot of people where it like ties together, like if their reel is very similar to their content, it doesn't always pose success for that reel, because the reel might not have been with trending music, might not be like, you know, the typical style. And so it's like, do you think the value is there? And I think you're experimenting now with growing this audience and trying to transfer them to like the content that you want to do. It's interesting. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it is challenging, and I think a lot of people do struggle with it because it's so easy to get used to making a 30-second video compared to a full 10-minute production, which seems like a lot of work when you're so used to it. I think so. Just as an example, I'm actually just filming a review for a new set that I got sent from Zavvi.com, which was nice to get free things. But I am filming the videos concurrently in a sense. So me opening up the box, me, you know, opening up the bags, putting it together. I can only do that once, so I have to film it all at the same time while I'm doing it in vertical and horizontal. I'm not repurposing the video. I'm actually doing two separate things. So I have to edit as I go as well, which takes infinitesimally more time. But I'm posting the TikTok as a trailer to the YouTube video in a sense. So the TikTok is, hey, look at what I got sent in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what it is. Let's build it. Here are a few points from it. And then you go to YouTube for the long form review and all of my thoughts on if you should buy it or not.
So you're not giving the whole story in the very beginning, like your trailer. It's a trailer. It's a straight up trailer. Like you're hinting to come over to something. Yeah, you're hooking.
Have you done this before? Or is this kind of the experiment right here?
I've done it. So I don't post a whole lot on YouTube just because this is a whole other conversation in and of itself. But I'm a terrible perfectionist, so it takes me a very long time to film a 10-minute YouTube video. It takes me a long time to film a minute TikTok sometimes as well, especially if I'm using my camera and all that. So I have done it with, I did like a quick Wolverine mech review when that first came out, and that video, I mean, it did very well for the time that I posted it because my YouTube channel, since I've been inconsistent, the algorithm hates me at this point. So I'm trying to find that consistency again and get my footing back of posting on a weekly basis. So I'm hoping to get my video out like this weekend or like early next week and then just like go from there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I got like 1,000 views, 1,700 views on that. I don't even remember. But my other video that I had just posted before that, probably a week earlier, was a Snowtrooper Battle Pack review, and that got half the views. So TikTok.
So you are bringing people over. Okay.
Right. I have a very short podcast when Mandalorian Season 2 came out with a friend of mine. And what I would do also is I would go live on TikTok right before I would post that podcast episode and tell people, hey, head over to watch this right after this, kind of like migrate with me over. If I'm doing a Stud Buds, which is a whole other conversation as well, a Stud Buds stream with the other 3 guys that I do it with from TikTok, we'll go live on TikTok beforehand to try to get some eyes to come over with us to YouTube as well. It does convert. It's just you have to be very creative in the way that you do it. But I think for the actual video posts, because you can do this on Reels as well, is think of how you can make the trailer for your YouTube video and how you can hook them in to migrate over to that platform.
Yeah. It also sounds like it's also like a combination of working on your TikTok and like going live on TikTok to create that community that likes you.
Yes. Right.
And
it's, you said it like, how do you connect it all? I don't view Lego as my niche. I'm not trying to sound like holier than thou in any sense, but I know that only I can be me. And so I hope that my me is enough. Like I am my niche, so that I hope that people want more of me for YouTube or for whatever I'm doing.
It works for a lot of people, but it's like definitely like a longer game, right? Which is the opposite of what you've done, right? You did the short game with the TikTok. And so, and not in no shaming at all, but like the longer game does prove to theoretically be more sustainable over the long term as a social media creator. And so you can see there's people who've been in the field now for 13 or 20 years now, really. And you can see how they've popped off or on, like, you know, obviously there's its own set of burnout with it, but creators that are still around tend to have really invested in that slow growth of no matter what they say, within, the realm of not being canceled, people still listen to them, right? And they like who they are as people. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think it's really interesting hearing that from someone who's grown on TikTok, because that is the antithesis of slow growth.
Right. Well, I mean, I've been doing this I'm not like saying that I've been doing it forever, but I've been doing it for 2 years, and I've learned so much in that time, more than I ever did in college when I was taking my marketing classes as well.
Right.
So actually experiencing it and being involved in it and watching YouTube videos and educating yourself on how to grow a social media presence, an audience, a community, that is so incredibly important to actually being successful on the platform. So I did a lot of work in a very short amount of time, but I'm hoping that it pays off for me in the long run.
No, it's cool. You have your degree. That's obviously, so you're able to think about it probably in a more theoretical macro level. At the same time, you can stop and step back, and it's probably hard though, because you post something and you get, so there's this thing about social media, even with YouTube, which is like the longer form. I mean, how many channels do like hour and a half long videos? Like a handful of them, right? And then like there's this instant gratification right from your phone, and people talked about it when social media first started years ago, and it's still kind of the same thing, and we all kind of suffer from it. It's so fun to post a video or post a TikTok, see the comments coming in, see the likes coming in. It's so exciting, and it's like you get this rush right at the beginning, and then like you kind of are like, well, why would I spend more time on a video if I can still get that content and that rush from just a short form content or something, or not doing as much work on a video, right? And I know you kind of touched on it a little bit. You're like, I'm a perfectionist, blah, blah, blah. And I think like a lot of us suffer from that. We've talked a lot about that on this podcast. There's a lot of people that we know, friends and content creators that we admire, that make the conscious effort to not post as much, and post better. And it's a lot of times it shoots them in the foot, and a lot of times it's great success, right? So it's almost like a higher gamble in a way, because it's like a higher reward. But it's really interesting. Anyway, it's cool having you on here. I think you're probably.
I appreciate it.
Well, yeah. Well, Shy, what do you think? Is this our biggest TikTok creator we've ever had?
He's our first. He's our first. Yeah. Right. Everyone else has a TikTok.
Yeah.
Holly had a good TikTok before.
Holly counts. I think Emily counts.
Great.
Yeah. Well, Emily has one of the biggest Instagrams, and she's grown to be a form content. So I think there's a lot there. Yeah. But I don't know. It's really fascinating that there's a few content. So Sam's is like loves watching like some of the really, really big content creators out there. And he's gone into kind of like a deep dive of, Moist Critical and some really savvy people on the internet, and their analysis of short form content and their own tests of it. And it's really fascinating. I don't know if you've watched any of that content, but and I recommend it to anyone listening if they're interested in that, because it's from just like an analysis of social media and its growth at different times and stuff. It's really, really interesting. Someone who's been around for a long time, who can kind of see it on a greater level, and who's incredibly well respected. It's very cool.
For me, social media is so many things. It's a tool at the end of the day, and it can be used for self-satisfaction and immediate pleasure as a creator or a viewer, and or as a good way to spread positivity in the world in a very kind of what I see as a dark time. And so TikTok, depending on what shows up on your For You page, that's the perspective that you can see reality from. So it magnifies whatever you are as well, which is a scary thing, because that can be really good qualities or bad, like I just said. And I do view TikTok as Facebook when it was just college students still, or YouTube when it was just cat videos. I think TikTok has a way to come, and I think it has very quickly been a big competitor in the space, because you see how scared, quite frankly, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram are of it.
I was just thinking of I lost it now. but there was like Periscope before, and they had, what was the other one? I can't think of it. Vine. They had Vine.
Yeah, Vine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But everyone was like, "Oh, it's short form. It's not going to do anything." And then TikTok came, and now YouTube's like, you know what? We should probably.
I think Vine was
Get
bigger
on
than
this.
YouTube back then.
Was
For
it?
a while. Yeah, Vine was big. Like it was huge.
Vine was,
and
yeah.
then what? So then YouTube was, and that's when like the beginning stages of YouTube, and then Instagram came, which I think annihilated Vine. Just what it was. And then after that, it was just Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for a long time. So and then recently TikTok.
You're
which
forgetting.
now.
You're forgetting Snapchat.
Oh, Snapchat. Yeah, Snapchat. Forgot about that one. That was
MySpace.
You want to get back into Friendster?
MySpace
Let's go back
was
further to that.
First, yeah.
MySpace, that's OG right there.
Well, I think MySpace, it's, you know, it failed so intensely because they couldn't figure out how to do advertising
or adapt in any sense at all.
Yeah.
But with TikTok now, it's literally changed the way Instagram and YouTube functions.
Yeah.
And that's what's alarming to the way people view content and the way creators are making content. So that, yes, TikTok is definitely, I guess, in the realm of social platforms, like in its infancy, and has literally shot up during the pandemic. It's going to be interesting to see how the other two, Meta and Google, like translate that into their own platforms, which we've seen them do. Like for Instagram, you see Reels completely take over just photo content. Like for the most part, if you want people to see your stuff, you're making Reels. Like photos get a gist of that, which you had that same type of like kind of feeling with YouTube. But YouTube at least came out with the fact that they acknowledge that there were two different algorithms, one for short-term content and one for long form content. Why I say short term, but have also recently in their last last YouTube convention, whatever they did, say that they're in beta to link both of those algorithms. Right. So they're working on that. They don't like the fact that there's two algorithms. That was just like a quick fix for now, which is the reason why we saw like people who are growing or exploding using short form content, but not seeing any of it translate to their long form content. Instagram right now feels like that. We don't know where they're at with that. I don't think there's any like information out there.
Instagram has no identity. That's the problem with the platform.
Well, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's focused on the Oculus stuff right now, so I think that's where everyone will eventually go. I think whatever. That's a different conversation for another time. But YouTube, at least, it now is acknowledging not only that they're doing the kind of Twitch thing with gifting subscribers. Or like the lives are going vertical now. So like, it's really like scary to consume, especially like a lot of us who like to analyze like the way we all do stuff, like the way content creators make their content, what viewers watch, regardless of if it's approached to our own forms of videos. But like, as we're analyzing all of this, it's kind of overwhelming because like you don't know which way to go. And the key point to a lot of this, and the safest way to go, which we kind of discussed earlier here, we're about to get pretty heavy, is diversifying your content, because you never know when a platform is going to drop, regardless of how long it's going to be on there. And the reason why I'm going into this nature is because I'll just say straight up, a lot of my brothers, like my military brothers, my club brothers, like we like to like literally go into these holes and diving into like conversations that probably no one should listen to, but but we went in this like rant about when's the next war going to happen, because we're officially the military is in peacetime. So we went into this like, okay, it's inevitable. Human history says it. There's going to be conflict, and we're currently in conflict right now, not as a nation, but that's out there with Ukraine and Russia. So we're watching this unfold to see how what our input is with sanctions and business, how that's really affecting Russia. You can see it with, if you want to bring it back to Lego, there's no more Lego in Russia. They stopped selling over there, and you would never thought that a company like that would excommunicate with them, but that could be on the government in itself. But with TikTok is not owned by anyone in the EU or NATO or within the United States. It's owned by, what was it? ByteDance. So they're a Chinese company, parent company, which is also tied. Which Chinese companies are tied. Their businesses are tied to the government, as opposed to where the Western countries are not. They're kind of free forming. And we kind of got in this conversation because one of the biggest tech companies, telecom companies, which was doing an FBI investigation, like in Nebraska and Colorado, own that. In like their tech is all over that place. And guess where all of our ICBMs are? Within that red area. So our nukes are now compromised by Chinese telecom. And no one thinks about that type of stuff. So like that's kind of a scary thought. And in social media in itself, like I mentioned before this, someone within the Chinese military community leaked top secret information on War Thunder, which is a game on social media. And the Pentagon got a hold of that. And both governments, both Chinese and United States, go through social media like a lot. I mean, they're looking for other things like, future incidents that may happen within the world. But, occasionally they'll run something like this and they'll go into the military. Vice versa, same thing with China. So with a company like this, I'm just throwing this out there. And with a company like this, who we don't know where we're going to be with them in the next 50 years, because they said straight up, they already said it, by 2050, where Taiwan is going to be ours. And now it's like feeling a little bit quicker than that. And we're kind of watching how the United States deals with Ukraine, and they're watching to see how sanctions going. So they're really getting their footholds everywhere. They're playing chess. We're playing checkers. That's literally what they're doing. And with TikTok, and the reason how this relates to the conversation is that if this were to happen, let's say Taiwan happens tomorrow, we have a lot of friends that rely on social media platforms like TikTok. What happens to that? Because they can literally shut it off in like a second, and then you lose your base.
So I don't understand it completely, but I'm just going to put that out there. So I'm not super educated on the subject, so I can't talk super in depth on it. But what I do know is that the US version of TikTok has a different set of controls, I think, from what I understand, than the parent company has. Of course, it's the parent company. Of course, they could, I guess, have a different oversight on it. But from what I understand as well, ByteDance as an app, or the way the Chinese version of TikTok operates, is extremely different to the way that our version operates. It's definitely more intuitive. And you probably know this as well, or you've probably all heard of this. They have a version where the American side of it is dancing and entertainment and comedy, but their version is suppressed to only have the academic kind of entrepreneurial qualities of what the Chinese government wants its people to pursue. So yeah. So that is very telling about culture. Right. So honestly, I started TikTok in the time where we had a president who said, I'm going to shut it down, and then I'm not going to shut it down, and all of this kind of mixed feelings around it. But now I'm kind of used to the fact that it could go away instantly. And that's why at this point I'm trying to then move over to other platforms just in case something could ever happen. Because I mean, let's say Taiwan happened tomorrow, like you said, I think there would be a lot more things to worry about than just TikTok's gone.
Social media has played a bit, just to relate with that. Yes, there is a other things to be more important about. But when the Ukraine push happened, we saw a lot of content shared through the eyes of the people on TikTok, Instagram Reels, all these social medias that really show what's actually happening in this world, as opposed to getting the filtered version from whatever news outlets wants to project their version of what's happening. So that was a big deal. And now, me personally, I follow a lot of military people. I'm watching pilots post video content like TikToks. Obviously, they're concealing who they are. They don't have names, but they're in their F-18s, F-16s, and they're like shooting TikTok reels. I think it's more for like marketing to join the military because we're in an all-time low.
Sure.
But like but not only our country, like pilots in Ukraine are doing the same thing, and it's showing like a different type of war effort. So yeah, I think if TikTok doesn't disappear during that Taiwan invasion, I think it's a good tool to show what's actually happening in this world. And it's short form content. It means something. And that's when I really, really appreciated it. I never really cared much for it until I saw that happening in the use of which it was being used for. Redundant. But like, you know what I mean? Like it has a good thing that it can be used for.
It's not just dancing.
Yeah. It's not just dancing. No, I mean, I personally am not a fan of the copying of like trends of dance videos and mimicking whatever everyone else has done. As I said before, Ninja, you and I, like we came from a world of fighting when we did this. Like, if someone like I came from a world of dance, like in high school. So if anybody copied what we did last competition, we just straight up boo.
Unacceptable.
This is we did that. That's not you. You can't do that. And now everyone, when someone does a choreography dance video, everyone does it.
And it's accepted.
And it's accepted. Weird. I'm like, what's going on? Like, we had whole generations like just straight up bag on each other for copying each other. And now it's like the thing, it's like you want to do the same thing that everyone else is doing, which is also funny in itself. So,
right.
but I am a big fan of like people who put effort into their TikTok, like who like think a little bit. They're not doing like the trends all the time. Like they're doing like you're telling a story. Like you can tell that you filmed in a different way. You probably use a better camera than your phone, like, or you put it in a different type of like editing platform, and then you really put some thought behind it. It might not be like super long, but it has taught me specifically some set of skills, like how to condense your content, which is also hard. It's not easy to like have like a 3-hour worth of filming and condense it to like 8 minutes. You know what I mean?
Like Matt was saying earlier, though, you could use it as like a trailer, because that's like how people that make trailers, they do. They take a whole movie and condense it into a couple minutes to make you want to go watch that movie.
Yeah.
And it's also that YouTube, the way that the content is made because of TikTok now has changed so much, because how do you get a viewer hooked for a 10-minute video when they're so used to scrolling on 10-second videos to try to get them to stay the whole time and keep that watcher attention so that your video does well? You have to be even more outrageous and exciting. I just recently watched a podcast of Logan Paul's editor talking about how he puts videos together, and he asks himself, what am I doing in 3 seconds to get someone to watch the next 3 seconds for a video? So it's definitely become a lot more challenging.
And I've applied
that. Did you?
I saw that same thing. So like what I've been battling, I've been doing a lot of testing this past like 2 months. And like what I figured recently is I'm not really entirely proud of it at this point, but like I've reduced my intro to like this, like I've expanded it so the intro is completely decimate, like it's starting to just turn into thing, and my retention went up by doing the freaking audio or the captions. Like by doing that, it increased the retention by 15 to 25%. And I'm like, what? Now I have to do the captions now. Now I can't get away from it because now all my like the past 6 videos are up retention rate by like 15 to 20%. So, but not only that, like quickly moving also increases the retention rate. So, which completely decimated the intro part of the video. So now people are staying for longer. So, like now I know. Now I have that kind of check. I'm not really proud of it. I am happy watching because I'm like, okay, it's actually moving by pretty quickly. But like, I'm now struggling making it longer because I'm now what would have been an 8-minute video is now 4 or 5 minutes.
Right. And so if you're monetized, you want to get the full AdSense.
Yeah. So, and YouTube still wants you to make long form content. They don't want you to have short content because that's where the money is. The money is in long form content. So, it's hard.
It's interesting balance. Yeah.
I think who will win the short form content game is about who can monetize it. So if TikTok can find a way to make that happen, they've blown everybody else out of the water. But I think YouTube has a really good shot because they know how to do that better than anybody else. So
Yeah, I mean,
I go back and forth with it all day, but
no,
it's an
think
investment
YouTube
that you
is the
make.
bet. YouTube's the best, is the safest bet. It's been there. It's Google. It's run by Google. Google kind of like runs the world. So like it's a safe bet. Like when everyone was battling out between Google and Twitch, I'm like, you're looking at Amazon versus YouTube and Twitch. I'm like, you're looking at Google versus Amazon. It's two different mindsets of like what they really want to accomplish in this world. You know, one wants to share information, the other wants profit. So there's like really a big deal on the different platforms there. With TikTok, like I said, I don't really know. I'm not really well versed on it, but like YouTube is conforming to that attention. But isn't like even Instagram's like so. On Instagram, you can no longer post TV content. I don't know if anybody notices. The only reason why I knew that is because I put a clip, one of our Caliber Click stuff on Instagram. It doesn't allow you to do TV content anymore. It automatically shifts it to reel. So I'm like, what? So then now you could have 2.5, 3 minute, 4 or 5 minute reels on Instagram. Yeah, it's like okay.
There was like a couple. There's like this like one food creator that had like thousands of like TV. I don't even know what happened to all. Did his content go away? Did it get deleted? Like that whole tab is like gone. Like I just like it's crazy. It's crazy to think that like you just have to roll with the punches with this stuff. I was just thinking like what he's doing great. He's like over the last few years he has like his own like supplements line, his own like web, like he's doing excellent. Like he's definitely grown, but like a ton of his content is just gone, like completely gone. Because of that whole TV tab thing is gone.
Did it just shift to reels? Because I think that's where it's supposed to. Because I remember getting that. Yeah, it just shifts to reels. So what I was worried about is that it would shift the TV content to like reel format. So it goes from like widescreen to short. It keeps it at widescreen. So at least you get that.
Good.
But like it's just like okay, so they're doing that now. And is TikTok doing longer form content now? Like you're allowed to post.
You can post up to 10 minutes on TikTok. At least I can. I have that feature available. That's the problem with these platforms as well. Everybody has a different version of it. So you might not have the 10-minute version. I think I do. But you have to basically import it as a video. You can't record up to 10 minutes on TikTok. It's something that you've already pre-edited in a sense. But I'm sure that they will get there because, as you were saying, the long-form content is where the monetizability stands. But yeah.
So is it going to be where YouTube is now just short form and TikTok is now long form content? Like that trade off, it's like, I feel like someone, which is a good thing for, you know, competition is great. Competition creates change and then we get to evolve. Like you're watching another future monstrosity, which is pretty much almost there, now really compete with YouTube with the long form content.
I think YouTube is also changing as a platform. And I think that this is just my hypothesis. I could be completely wrong. But I think TikTok will be where the quick endorphin dopamine hit is. I think YouTube right now it's this Mr. Beastification of the platform with subtitles everywhere, screaming as the intro. Everybody's doing the same content. And I can't stand it. But then you have Instagram, which doesn't know its identity whatsoever because they just conform to whatever the trend is. So I think that Instagram will go bye-bye in the next 5 years. I think YouTube will become long-form, high-production video content, more like the content that you would see like on a Netflix with like a Bo Burnham kind of special. Yeah. And then TikTok will be the crazy, how do I get the full watch retention through adding subtitles and screaming at the camera for 5 seconds.
So you think the influencer who is relatable is gone at that point then? Because the relatability aspect has to do with the lower quality, like the concept of sitting on a bedroom floor and talking in front of a camera, which is how YouTube started. So you're saying that's dead and gone?
No.
Or is that something else?
No, so I think that's going to TikTok. And I think that the personality combined with the quality will be what exists for YouTube. But for TikTok, if I film on my camera, and I'm thinking about, and I've been thinking about this for a while, just going to shooting on my phone for TikTok, because anytime that I post a video that I've edited more with using a higher quality camera setup, it performs much lower, like much lower. a more authentic video that's on your
these
phone.
platforms want you to do it on their interface or whatever, and they tell you it's very obvious when they do that. I'm curious though, because like TikTok, I think as a platform though, as a UI and a UX, from that simple perspective, has to come so far to overpass Instagram. And yeah, they can absolutely do that in like whatever 5 years that you're saying. The usability of TikTok is obviously high because a lot of people can use it, but there's still mass demographics that like can't get into it and like can't create on it. Like it's very, to be honest, it's actually particularly limited in terms of what you can do on it, which is why everything looks the goddamn same on there. And it is
why
just
I like it.
Maybe, I can get that, but it's also like, I don't know, there's something redundant about it, and it's also like I can't stand it. Like I tried making content on it and it like I hated every aspect of it. And it blocked me, and it's like you're not 13, and it's like it makes it so hard. Like over and over again. I constantly am having this issue, and it's like to be
fair, I feel that way about Instagram in a lot of ways. Because I don't know what that platform is. When I think of Instagram, my mind goes to what it used to be as a photo sharing platform. That was the only platform that was really doing it. And what platform really does it now? Facebook? Like, I mean, Instagram has made a lot of photographers very upset. I see them going to places like Vero and other platforms that are specific to photo sharing. And it's just clunky.
I disagree that that's Instagram's intention or its originality. And I think the reason I'm gonna like challenge what you're saying. You're saying that like
you're more than welcome to.
Instagram is failing because it has like no definition. Instagram is failing because like its original purpose of sharing photos is no longer relevant, right? There's this other aspect to social media where it's like a support system for your brand, right? And like the marketing part of it, right? And it's an access point to a creator, to a brand, right? So like whether it's like something like Kellogg's or, you know, you or me, like however big that is, Instagram and Twitter are probably the best places where everyone is almost on the same level in a certain way. And it's
Twitter, I don't know, but
the thing is with Twitter, you have like I cannot tolerate Twitter, but Twitter's like successful mega corporations who have done really well on Twitter have kind of lowered their, you know, attitude a little bit and have kind of come down to earth, and people have loved that about that. What is it, like Wendy's and all these other companies?
Getting into fights with Burger King.
And so I'm going to say that like I believe that the power of Instagram is a support to like the larger brand or whatever it is that you're creating, and it's an access point for viewers and for people to feel like they have a touch point and an accessibility to said person or brand. And that's like through its various mediums. And I think that a lot of people still do this where they're like, if they like a person, a YouTube creator, if they like a brand, if they like a product, if they like Disney, if they whatever the hell they like, they go to Instagram first because it's like it's like the most it's the easiest way to find that curated content in a way that's still in a short form kind of format, but it's an accessibility point, right? And I think it feels a little bit relatable. So the problem with TikTok is it would have to take those aspects of Instagram, which is totally possible. It can absolutely do that. It has to create that kind of relatability and that access to it. The problem with TikTok, you can't just like go on there and like find specific topics as easily, find specific brands as easily, and you can't just focus on those things. It takes you to other content creators immediately. And that's why it's so successful, because it constantly is pushing you to other people. But you don't always want that if you want that kind of intimate connection with a brand or creator. And I think that's where there's an antithetical, like, you know what I mean? That what would make TikTok absorb Instagram is the antithesis of TikTok at this moment. And so and obviously all these platforms can move and change and adapt. And I'm not saying this is an impossibility, but that seems like very difficult, you know?
At least right now, I would see that,
5 years, I think a lot can change. But what I'm saying too is like TikTok is upgrading like on a monthly basis. They are actually working right now on getting their searchability functions working a lot better to compete with someone like YouTube. Because if you're looking for how-to videos on something specific, you just go to YouTube and search it. But imagine if you could find that answer within 5 seconds of like just watching a TikTok. Like, because a YouTube video might take 10 minutes to explain to do something, but if you can condense it into a TikTok, that's a lot
how many
easier.
times do you like, do you look at something and you just like play it double time because there's like some nonsense intro and blah 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 blah. And so
to the good part. Here we go.
No, and I think that Instagram is too curated. I think that, like you were saying, the authenticity, it doesn't exist on Instagram anymore. Even for my friends, I look at my friends' content from like college, and I'm like, "This isn't you. What are you? You're not happy. You're like you're smiling in this photo, and then you just got done complaining about your boyfriend. Like, I don't.
You hate your husband. You're not happy about being pregnant. Why are you holding your stomach in front of the Eiffel Tower? Like, this doesn't make any sense. No, but for people, there's that. But I think because it's so curated, it's a very safe space for brands because they can control it. And with cancel culture, they have to be able to do that. So this is like something that like they have to like curatability and cancel culture have to coexist.
I think they just have to figure out how TikTok works. Like, I think once they can get I think the problem with TikTok is that no one believes in it the same way that they do Instagram because it's been around for so long at this point. TikTok is still infant.
I agree with you. I think companies have completely been like, TikTok is it. We need to figure. I mean, any relevant company is like thinking that. I think people realize that it's like the future. It's whether the argument is like one versus the other. I think people are like, they both need to exist, which is obviously like probably the safest thing to do. And what Shy is getting around is like, you need to be on all the platforms.
Right.
You need to diversify yourself. And people have always said this for the longest time in terms of social media. It's like the difference, if you're going to be a full-time social media creator, your revenue streams are coming from like 8 different places.
Everywhere. Yep.
And it's such a foreign concept because you've got Google AdSense, you've got however Instagram is monetizing right now, however TikTok monetizes, donations from Twitch, your whatever brand store you might have from any on like Teespring, all that garbage. It's all coming in different revenue streams. Now with Whatnot, for Lego, there's like so many different aspects. And then you've got your sponsorships, which are obviously like that's like should be viewed as your main salary. And like there's all these different ways of like branding yourself and monetizing yourself. And it has to be done. Like there's no other way to do it. And it's the complete opposite of like a 9-to-5 where it's like, it's almost like I work as a consultant now, and it's like really a pain in the butt because you only get paid like every 7 weeks, and it's like it is very. And I used to get paid, like the worst I've ever got paid was once a month, and I hated that. And now getting paid every 7 weeks is really unmotivating because you're just like you literally feel like you're working for nothing. And so at the beginning, and so the nice thing though, I would say about social media and the different revenue streams is like you're getting like $12, $10, $100, $50 in multiple times a day if you're successful, right? And it's like constantly. It's like a tax accountant's like absolute nightmare, but it's really interesting.
Say that.
Like it's just even my small channel, like I've never delayed taxes in my entire life, from April to October, and I had to last year because I didn't understand. Like I didn't document the right way as I normally do. And from the multiple, and even if you make a certain amount of money from the different revenue streams, they send you like your W-2 and stuff, and it's like, or your 1080, whatever. It's super easy. But at the same time, like all your other tiny expenses and all this stuff, but whatever. Matt, my professional advice for you now is to get into Excel, document everything, save all your receipts,
right.
do it all, get into Evernote and like do it from the beginning. 'Cause right now I am still like, I'm like retroactively still trying to fix everything, and I'm incredibly organized. So just total side.
Look at her room.
No, yeah, I agree completely because there's just so much documentation as well. I mean, you can always go back, and that's the fun thing about social media is that it is documentation in a sense, and you can remember, oh yeah, I spent $20 on this Lego set, and I'm putting that on my taxes as a write-off, and all
you can
that
prove it.
Right. Exactly.
Just, but wow. All right. So we went pretty much everywhere in this episode, and I don't think we're done yet. So we probably might have to ask you to come back, because
I would love to come back. I would love
more
to.
to this conversation. There's TikTok in essence has literally thrown a wrench in the social media in the past couple of years, and it's obviously not going to go anywhere. And it's, even if it were to disappear tomorrow, its legacy is definitely there. So it's good that you are now in pretty much everywhere. So just type in your name and you can find yourself everywhere, which is a good thing. Easy branding. I can Google you and you pop up in every single thing. So that's great.
It is me. That's the scary thing, though. Like, if I ever move on to anything else, it's gonna be like, I want to look up this kid. Yeah, I did that. But the same thing is, like, that's why I made it that. I didn't want it to be like Matster Builder or anything like that, because
that was
I wanted
Brikx.
I wanted it to be me as my niche, like I said. So if Lego disappeared tomorrow and I wanted to do art full time, not that it would necessarily be an easy translation, but I could. That was at the beginning the idea. I don't think it necessarily is anymore, but yeah. So my landlord, who I applied to get this lease through, he did a background check, and I come to sign the lease, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, I love your TikToks." And I'm like, "Actually?" And this is an older guy. I love him to death, but he's an older guy. And he said, "Yeah, no, I'm always on TikTok. My wife makes fun of me, but I love your stuff. I watch you every day."
See, I feel bad for anyone with your name going forward in life, because which could benefit them if they ever get a background check, because you're the one's going to be dominating that name. So.
Right, exactly. I don't know any other Matt Mellishes, so if you're out there, please find me.
So far, the one, the only.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, with that being said, does anyone have any final rounds? No. Well, thank you, Matt, for joining us with this episode. We will have you back. And with that being said, let's roll that music. All right, guys. Peace.
Thank you so much.
That was good. That was good.
I hope it wasn't too intense.
No,
I don't know.
It's perfectly intense.
No, I appreciate you guys letting me come on and just like spew my random thoughts on social media with you guys. Like, it's so much fun.